वासुदेव। हरे ओम। शं नो मित्रस्यं वरुणः शं नो भवत्वर्यमा शं न इन्द्रो बृहस्पतिः शं नो विष्णुरुक्रमः नमो ब्रह्मणे नमस्ते वायो त्वमेव प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्मासि त्वामेव प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्म वदिष्यामि ऋतं वदिष्यामि सत्यं वदिष्यामि तन्मामवतु तद्वक्तारमवतु अवतु माम् अवतु वक्तारम् ओम शांति शांति शांति। प्राच्य पाश्चात्य देशानां समन्वय विधायकं शांतं सौम्य गुणोपेतं कृष्णं वंदे जगद्गुरुम्। ओम अस्मद्गुरुभ्यो नमः। So welcome to all our brothers and sisters. Once again we are here to continue our study of the aphorisms of Patanjali. So we have last week started study of aphorism 15, in which Patanjali explains about Vairagya. So for the purpose of suspension of the behaviors of mind, Patanjali instructs us to use two implements, make use of two implements. One is Abhyasa and another is Vairagya. Abhyasa is the repetition of the effort, and Vairagya is non-attachment. So in this aphorism first he has given exactly what is meant by Vairagya. So non-attachment or Vairagya is that quality which shows sign of transcendence in a person who is away from the thirst for something seen or heard through aptitude. So that which is seen or heard means that which is received by the senses to produce an impression upon the mind. We have already studied that the senses, by contact with the objects of senses, through this contact, they produce impression on the mind. Previously we have studied that mind is like a screen on which all these impressions are projected. So this activity is because of the working of the 5 senses through the sense organs. So the impression received by the mind through one of the 5 processes of behavior, because we have studied there are 5 processes of behavior. So rightly measured by the senses. First is right measure. So rightly measured by the senses. That is one process. And another is wrongly measured by the senses. And the third one is conveyed by the word. And fourth one not conveyed by sleep. And fifth one conveyed through a stimulation by recollection, which is called smriti. So the fifth one produces habit and stimulates impressions with the power of habit forming nature. So there is a faculty called habit forming nature. That is the faculty is there in the creation. So this faculty applies everywhere, in every aspect in the creation. Then when the aptitude toward an impression is galvanized. The aptitude towards an impression is galvanized into power of craving or thirst. Then what happens? It obstructs us from living in the present and compels us to live in the past. So this aphorism it runs as follows in Sanskrit: Drushta anusravika vishaya vitrushnasya vasikara samya vairagyam. Drushta means that which is seen. Anusravika, which is heard with favorable disposition. Vishaya means object of senses. Vitrushnasya means to the one who has left thirst for the thirst. Vasikara samya. That means that which possesses the sign of transcendence. And vairagya means non-attachment. So this is the word meaning of this aphorism. So we have studied about abhyasa. So this vairagya is also as important, as big to that of abhyasa. Vairagya and abhyasa are equally important, and they have equally wide range of application. There are some aspects which are heard by us, we receive them by hearing. Through the sense of hearing, we receive them, some of them. So the hearing is anusravika, means that which is received through hearing. Then some of the aspects we receive by perception, direct perception through the eye, through the vision. So all the objects of senses are either heard by us through the sound or seen by us through the light. Heard or seen. So what we call Vishaya, the object of any sense, is, that doesn't mean that what we mean about an object. So we have our 5 indriyas or senses. When they are active, then what happens? Before the eye there is a shape. Before the ear there is a sound. Before the nose there is a process of smelling. And before the tongue there is a process of tasting. And before the skin there is a process of touch. So all these objects outside, they are in touch with one or more of our senses. Senses. So Vishaya means objects of the senses. These are all called, these Vishayas or objects of the senses are called Indriyarthas. It means object of the senses. So whatever we see, whatever we hear, they are the objects of senses. So we have all the 5 like that. So here, now, when we come to the understanding of non-attachment, what we have to know is that whether we have thirst for them or not. Suppose when we went into the market, so we went there to purchase some things what are absolutely needed. We went to the market. So we have picked up those objects which are absolutely necessary for us. Then our sight is attracted towards other objects are also around, which are not needed by us now, but they have attracted our attention. Then, if we have thirst for them, here thirst means not only thirst for water, but it is the aptitude for them. That is what is called thirst. Generally we call thirst only towards some water or some liquid. But this aptitude towards other objects can be called a thirst. So when we our attention is drawn through the sight towards some objects which we have not intended before to purchase. But now, because of our aptitude, we got this thirst for them. Then what we do? Suppose there are a new variety of shoes are kept in the shop, in the market, supermarket. We actually went to purchase some notebooks and some pens to write. So, but after going there, then through our eyes, we were attracted by something, for example, a very good chocolate is there. So, our attention was attracted, dragged towards the chocolate. So now, if we have an aptitude or the thirst for that or not, here is the point. So here what it is, the one who has thirst or aptitude, and therefore he was drawn towards a chocolate in this example, for example, then he has no vairagya, because he got attached to the taste of the chocolate. You can understand, I think. So, I actually went to purchase some notebooks and some pens and come back home because they are needed. I have to write something. They are needed. But after going into the market, before I went to the desk where there are notebooks and pens, my attention was drawn towards wonderful chocolates in another shelf in the market. So I was attracted towards the chocolate. So I got attracted toward the chocolate, even though it is not intended or required now. So this is the aptitude. I got attracted, my attention was attracted towards that because of the aptitude, which is called also thirst for that object. So if I am attracted like this and my aptitude towards it is like this, then it is sure that I am still not in practice of vairagya, non-attachment. That means I am very much attached towards those objects like chocolate. So here what Patanjali says is that vairagya is that quality which shows signs of transcendence. We have to transcend this thirst for all these things which are attracting us. So we are attracted through any of our senses towards this object. So we have to transcend this attraction. How we get transcend also it will be explained further after few aphorisms. How we can transcend? How is it possible? But it is possible. When we observe ourselves, when we are attending to some important work which we have to do, sitting before our computer, whether we are in an interview which is made online now, for example, or I am viewing something which is very interesting to me, watching something, then at that time there are many objects around me, but my attention is drawn towards the objects, even though the objects are there before me. Even though I am watching a television or looking into my computer, even then also the objects are there. But even though the objects are there, now my attention is not drawn by them. So that is, if I am not drawn by them, that means I have no thirst for them. So this is having no thirst, or to transcend this thirst for something which is heard or seen. So this transcendence, the state of transcendence is called non-attachment or vairagya. That is what is called vitrushna. Trushna means in Sanskrit thirst or aptitude. So vitrushna means having no thirst or aptitude. Suppose there is banana before me on the table, and my tongue is here to taste it. So what is the relationship between banana and my tongue? So my tongue, through my tongue, I can recollect the taste of a banana, because through the tongue I have tasted it. Contact of the tongue with the banana, I have tasted it before, which is there in my memory, smriti. That is the fifth type of behavior of the mind which was explained is smriti. So in the past, my tongue has a contact with banana, which created an impression about banana, a taste. So now, there is a banana on the table. So, we can make an experiment. You keep the banana, wonderful, very attractive, very tasty banana on the table. And you gather 4 children who are studying in the school, and you make them sit and start teaching something to all the 4. Little children. So what happens? So you are teaching, suppose there are 4 children who are there to learn, to get the lesson. Child A, child B, child C and child D, 4 are there. So you have a chart of the alphabet, and then you started to give the lesson. A for apple, like that. But that first one, this child A, he sees the banana there on the table. he is very much fond of banana. He has an aptitude towards the taste of banana. So when you teach, you show on the chart A for apple. Immediately what he says, B for banana, like that. His response is, you see how will be response? The teacher expects him to repeat, when he says A for apple, he wants the children to repeat A for apple. But this first fellow, he has an aptitude towards banana, a taste of banana. So when the teacher says A for apple, immediately he says B for banana. Then the teacher is angry. The teacher says no, A for apple. Then he says B for banana. Why? Because he has a strong aptitude towards banana. Therefore, whatever you say, he says B for banana only. And then the second child and the third child, child B and child C. Now, these two fellows, these two children are listening to the teacher, what the teacher is saying, even though banana is there. But they are listening to the teacher. So both of them are not looking to the banana and listening to the teacher. Then you think, oh, these two children are not attached. They got non-attachment. They got vairagya. Therefore, even though banana is there before them, they are not looking to it, they are listening to the teacher. When not like the first fellow. The first fellow, when the teacher says A for apple, he says B for banana, because he is attracted towards that due to the aptitude. But the other two children, for them also it is there on the table before them. But they are listening to the teacher. Then immediately you should not think that both of them have non-attachment. No. Why? Now, somebody brought a plate with a sweet like milk cake in the plate and put in they are placed on the table. Then another child, the third one, he stops listening to the teacher because he has aptitude to this sweet cake. When this sweet cake was not placed, then he was listening to the teacher, but he is not attracted by banana. But now, when they put a plate with sweet cake, this fellow, third fellow, he is drawn towards this cake and stopped listening to the teacher. So he has aptitude towards the cake. And the another fellow is not looking the banana because he doesn't like banana, taste of banana. That is why banana has no effect on that fellow. Therefore, he is listening to the teacher. So this is not vairagya. This cannot be a vairagya. One is attracted towards the banana, and other two are not attracted, means that is conditional, not really vairagya, non-attachment. He is attached to some other thing, so he is not attracted. Suppose the children are listening to the teacher and somebody was ringing a bell on the road, particular type of bell. So, all the children stopped listening to the teacher and start listening to the bell, and they wanted to jump out. This bell is the bell given by some vendor going on the street selling some attractive sweet, which generally most of the children, they like this sweet. So all of them, they stopped listening to the teacher and wanted to jump to the road. So therefore, this is all aptitude. Another example is when we are walking on the road. Then we have seen at a particular place some people gathered around something in a circular manner, and somebody is shouting from in between the circle. And these fellows who are walking, some of them immediately jump there to know what is happening inside. And some of them, they don't care for this and then they keep on walking. That means for these people who are not attracted, they are also listening about the shouting of some person, and they have also seen that the people gathered around, but they are not attracted. So they are continuing to move. That means they have no aptitude toward that. And another example is when you are traveling in a bus, the fellow who is sitting happened to look at his neighbor person who is sitting on another seat, and he has a newspaper in his hand. He is reading the newspaper. And this fellow is very inquisitive for some news and became very anxious to see the newspaper. That means he is traveling on some purpose, but he is attracted by the newspaper. So he has, due to this aptitude, he got attracted. So therefore, we have to practice that our mind is not, we are not affected by anything which we see, which we hear. And we can transcend the effect of those things which are seen, which are heard by us. So then we can say that we are practicing vairagya, non-attachment. Then it is possible that we can be on the path towards suspension of the behavior of mind. You see? So So that effort to transcend, the effort to transcend the aptitude or the attraction towards what is seen or what is heard. So this effort to transcend is vairagya. So when you practice this for some time, when you repeat, when we practice this, when you put abhyasa for this purpose for some time, then what happens? Your aptitude is changed. So now nothing can attract your attention with its force. Even though everything is around you, nothing can attract you, because you have transcended this attraction, and you have got a control. Control means a state where you are not attracted or distracted from your goal. From our daily life, we can pick out some examples which we know, some more examples to know about vairagya. Suppose a person is traveling, he has a wallet in which he has put some money, say 500 euro or something, or maybe 500 rubles or something, and he has put the wallet in his pocket. And he was traveling and he was looking this side and that side, and very much his attention is towards some things which he is perceiving. After getting out of the bus, he realized that his wallet is missing from the pocket. He has seen everywhere, he has searched, no wallet is there in the pocket. Somebody has snatched it away. Then he got transpiration all over the body and got shivering, and he had got tension. Where is my wallet? Where is my wallet? Then he forgets the task what he has to do for which he is traveling, and he starts thinking of wallet. Why I have put the wallet in this outside pocket? I should not have kept it in the outside pocket. What he should do is, he should have kept this wallet with money inside his bag, not in the pocket where everybody can easily snatch it away. He should do this before. But now he started to transpire, he started to tremble. He repeats again and again, oh, my wallet has gone. Somebody snatched away my wallet. These fellows are like this, that. All the useless talking. He never stops even for 1 day or 2 days, even after 4 or 5 days. Suppose you meet this fellow, you say, my wallet was stolen, you know. It was snatched away when I was traveling. But it is gone. You should not think about it now. It is too foolish. Even for 1 minute also what you have to do, if at all you have to do, is go into the police station, give a complaint, and then go on your work. Forget about it. If it is possible, the police can trace, then your wallet will come back, otherwise it is gone. So you should be careful next time not to carry the wallet in the pocket. So if you are if your mind is still dwelling on the wallet which was stolen, that means you have no vairagya. So how to apply non-attachment is, these are all the examples. A student is there. He wants to get through the examinations and want to get good marks so that he can join in a very higher institution. But during the time before the examinations, he was spending his time in other things, watching television or doing something else, not very much attending to the lesson. Then what happened? Automatically, in the examination he could not do well. So he failed in the examination. Now, he starts analyzing why I have failed in the examination. I wrote the examination. I have answered the questions why I failed. But what is the use now? You have already failed. Your number is not there in the indication who have passed the examination. So it is not there. You have failed. What you have to do now is again make an attempt next time with more attention, without deviation. But if you sit for many days, why I have failed in the examination, I have so much I have put this, my effort, that is utterly useless. So that shows that you have no vairagya at all. What can you do? You cannot undo what you have to do, what you have done. It is not a computer. In the computer, you do something, now, then you push the button undo, then it comes back. But here in the life, it doesn't come back. What has gone is gone. You cannot bring it back. So if you keep thinking about what has happened before, what is the use now? Somebody got involved in an accident and broke his leg. And somehow he recovered. But after some years also, I should not have broken my leg. Why I got involved in the accident? But what is the use now? So if you apply non-attachment, then your attention is towards what you are doing now, that's all. Not towards something which has happened before. So non-attachment is to be practiced at every step, at every incident, every moment in our daily life. For that purpose, Patanjali has explained this. There is no use of getting anxious about what has happened. Or there is no use of getting anxious about what will happen in future. Both these things are useless. Only you are concerned what you have to do now. Do it. Keep doing it. What you have to do, keep doing it. Don't entertain idea about what will happen in future and what has happened in the past. Both are not under your control. So you have to apply non-attachment for this. So non-attachment does not mean escaping. Unfortunately, some people misunderstood this term non-attachment as escaping from the scene. That is not the exact meaning of non-attachment. Suppose there is somebody who is sick in the family, this fellow will escape. And he says, oh, I am not attached to anything. But this is not the real non-attachment. That means you are escaping from your responsibility. So non-attachment is not escapism. You have to remember this. Your duty is not attachment. If you are a wife, you have some duty towards your husband and children. If you are a husband, you have a duty towards your wife and children. If you are a child, you have a duty towards your parents. So these are all this is not attachment, but these are all your responsibilities, what you have to attend. In the name of non-attachment, if you want to escape from this, that is non-attachment, that is false. So there are some people who want to escape from their house because they have to attend to many responsibilities, so they want to escape. Now I got vairagya, I got non-attachment, now so no more I am attached to all these things. So then why you are taking food? All the past years you have been taking food every day, 2 or times, 3 or times or 4 times. Now you got non-attachment, leave the food also. No, I cannot leave my food or drink or my habits. But you want to leave the responsibility. And you say that is non-attachment. That is absurd. So that is not non-attachment. Another wonderful example Master has given, explaining this non-attachment. He says that when he is explaining the aphorism of Patanjali about non-attachment, then somebody brought a cup of coffee and put before him on the table. So if he is attached towards the taste of the coffee, then what happens? Then he will stop for a while and drinks the cup of coffee and then continues. But if he is not drawn towards the cup of coffee, even though it is before his eyes, and he could continue his work of explaining or teaching just normally as before, then he is in non-attachment. That is non-attachment. So this is what we are doing here is practice of yoga. In this sense, yoga abhyasa, practice of yoga. So we are making an effort to attain the state of yoga. So therefore, yoga abhyasa and vairagya is repeating the effort to get out from the aptitude or the taste towards the things that are perceived through our sight or through our hearing or through our smell or through our sense, taste or sense, by anything. So suppose he is a businessman. Suddenly he got a telephone message that all the goods booked by him to make an export towards other country, that ship has drowned. If he is a person practicing yoga to his non-attachment, then how he reacts is that, okay, it has gone, we cannot do now. And he continues his work and his effort, what he has to do next. He will not get any blood pressure by listening to the news. He never gets any palpitation in the heart. He has no damage to his body by listening to the news. That means he has non-attachment. So that means his mind and his thinking, they are all under his control. That is vasikara. Vasikara means control. So the activity of the senses, the working of the mind are under his control. Therefore, he is not at all affected by any of the disturbances like this in the life. Another example Master has given. So a few times we have also discussed about this example. Let us take the example, apply the example now in this context. I am now trying to teach about the aphorisms of Patanjali. From one of the persons who is listening, he gives a message that what you are explaining is utterly false. It is foolish. You don't know anything. You are a foolish fellow, like that. What I am doing is, I am trying to explain by teaching aphorisms of Patanjali and teaching about Vairagya. Then I got this message from somebody who is listening. And then immediately I got shocked, and then I went back home, and then a good food was placed in the plate on the table before me. I could not take the food because my mind is engaged with the idea that, oh, why this fellow has insulted me by saying that I am useless, I am a fool. Because I know so much, I am a learned man, but this fellow called me a fool, he said I am useless. Why he has said like this? So, the food which is there before me in the plate is not at all delicious to me anymore. Somehow I picked up some food and then I went to sleep. But the whole night I could not sleep. I have the picture of that fellow in my mind who called me a fool. And all the night I was thinking and thinking, why he called me a fool? Then what happened? That fellow has gone home and he has a good food and he has slept very well, no problem. In the morning he was fresh. But for me, the whole night I could not sleep. Here, just you think, he has called me a fool only once. He has given a message or he called me on the telephone, or if he is before the eyes, he said, only once he said, what you are telling is useless, you don't know anything, you are a fool. And then he went back home and he was quite happy. But myself, It started in my mind, why should he call me like that? Why he insulted me like that? So I could not eat, I could not sleep. My blood pressure has gone very high. I got palpitation in the heart. Then in the morning, I was taken to the hospital. Then the doctor examined and said, your blood pressure is very high and your heart rate is beating very high. You may get paralyzed. So they have put all these things put into special care and put on medication for a few days. With so much of medication, with great difficulty, these things were brought to normal. So I have paid a big money to him, to the doctor, to the hospital. Maybe 10,000 rubles or 20,000 rubles, and came home. So all this cost, this amount is the cost of just my feeling of insult. For the other fellow, nothing happened. For me, all these things happened because I felt insulted. What is this? This is lack of non-vairagya, non-attachment. Lack of attachment. This is non-attachment, due to lack of non-attachment. I have not applied non-attachment. I have to apply vairagya. If I apply vairagya, then how it will be situation, the same situation? Yes, he called me a fool. He said I am useless. Okay. Then I have to look whether what I am doing is correct or not. If I once again verify and find that everything is correct, what I am speaking, what I am teaching is according to the explanation, then I should not bother. Yes, he said, okay, it is for him to say. Why I should bother? So I complete my teaching, I go home, I take food, I sleep well, and I am normal. No need of going to the hospital because I have no blood pressure increasing, no heart rate increasing. I am quite all right. This is because I am practicing non-attachment. So in your life you are practicing non-attachment or vairagya, then you have no aptitude or no thirst for what is heard and what is seen. You see? That is what is explained in this aphorism. To understand what is explained by Patanjali, we have to apply it to the examples from our daily life. That is most important. That is what Master has given. We go into the supermarket to purchase something, and there are many more things very attractive. If we bring all those things home, even though we have these things before, but now once again we purchase it. So this is because of non-attachment is not applied. Because of the attachment or aptitude towards all these things. If you have non-attachment practicing, then you are not attracted by all these things. So these are all the examples from our daily life. Yeah. Even in simple things in the life, we have to apply this. So, that which is seen or heard means that which is received by the senses to produce impression upon the mind. The impression is received by the mind through one of the 5 activities which were explained before. One of the 5 types of activities or behavior of the mind. So the 5th process, the 5th one which produces habit and stimulates impressions with the power of habit forming nature. So this is where we have to understand then what happens is the aptitude towards impressions is increased more and more. Then our mind is full of all impressions about other objects and about other persons. Our mind is always busy forming impressions. Infinite impressions in the mind. What happens? It obstructs us from living in the present. That is the problem. It will not allow us to live in the present. It makes us live in the past. It also tries to bring the past into the present. When it demands that we bring the desired objects into the physical plane. And this obstructs our progress towards realization and liberation due to over effort on the physical plane. We get exhausted on the physical plane due to all this obstructing activity. That is the reason. So the attitude of indifference towards past impressions and their recollection, so we have to use this indifference. Indifference is to be used in such situations. We have to be indifferent towards the past incidents. So the attitude of indifference towards the past impressions and their recollection, because there are past impressions stored in our mind, and when we start recollecting those impressions, then they start disturbing us and our work. Just like in the example, who has insulted us? It was in the past. Past means now few minutes ago, then few hours ago, then few days ago, then few months ago, and then few years ago. It has gone back. After 1 year also, if I think of that person and look at this person, oh, this person has insulted me. What is the use? It was in the past. Why should you think it now? So recollecting past impressions it creates a big obstruction in our progress towards yogic practice. We have to practice indifference towards those things. And this gives us a power to transcend these things. So the attitude of indifference can be brought about by the help of a more powerful impression of the highest consciousness existing in us. This is the secret. You see, we have many impressions. The impressions are very stronger in our mind. Okay. So we get many impressions every time. So pick up a much more stronger impression from the higher consciousness. We have, for example, we got a very wonderful divine experience some years ago. This is also an impression, because that is an experience. So in the form of an impression, this experience, it is there stored in our mind. So now how we have to transcend all the impressions about these things on the lower plane is make a recollection of this impression of that situation where you got a wonderful experience, divine experience. Now bring it from your memory and use this. Then what happens? when your mind is focused towards this impression about that experience, then all these impressions on the lower plane are erased. That is the way in which we have to practice. This makes us to transcend the recollection of senses, impressions made by senses. Such a state of transcendence keeps impressions under their control, under our control. So that is what we have to practice. If we want to have a control on all our impressions, we have to use the power of recollection. We have to bring an impression of the highest consciousness, a wonderful experience, that we have to, then we can have a control on all these impressions. This brings things on the physical plane under our control. So when the desire to have or not to have under our control, things on the physical plane are also under our control. So this, because we are on physical plane practically. So when we want to transcend, when we want to bring this to be under our control, not to make impression on our mind, then we have to practice like this. Then desire ceases to be desire and is replaced by need. This is the secret. What happens is, when you are able to make a more powerful impression about the higher plane by recollection, then automatically the desires are replaced by needs on the lower plane. That means we will attend to the needs, no more attached to the desires. That is the manner in which we can practice this. So when the behavior towards other outer possessions is under control, it is called non-attachment. Suppose I am in the group with you all studying about the subject, and I have seen that some one of you has a very wonderful instrument, some latest sophisticated instrument in recording and storing and all these things, then my mind is attracted towards that, make an impression that that instrument is more useful to me. So then my mind is attracted towards it. Then what happens? Then I start an effort how I can get the instrument which I wanted to have a desire. This is a desire. So how to get control on the desire? That is by application of this non-attachment or vairagya. That is why this is explained. So, when the behavior towards outer possessions is under our control, it is called non-attachment. It will be characterized by following traits. How can we how can we know, how can we realize what is non-attachment? How can we know what is non-attachment is? There are some traits. When we observe them, then we can know what is non-attachment. What are those traits that are being explained by Master in this context of non-attachment? What are the traits is, desire to possess is replaced by a knowledge to use things and persons. Generally, we are having a habit to possess. So a desire to possess the persons or objects. So this desire to possess is replaced by a knowledge to use things and persons properly and according to the need. This is one trait. Then that shows we are on the way of practicing non-attachment. And another trait to identify non-attachment is, usefulness of a thing is no more personal. We have to understand very carefully. Whether a particular thing is useful or not should be considered not from the personal point of view. So usefulness of a thing is no more personal. If it is personal, then it leads you to attachment. You get attached to it. If it is not personal, then it is non-attachment. One is need. We have to remember need. We have to attend to the needs. Because we have to clearly demarcate between needs and desires. We have to make a demarcation. We must be very clear what is a need and what is a desire. Need belongs to the body, to the physical plane, and desire belongs to the mind. This we have to be very clear. Then only we can understand its subject. So usefulness of a thing is no more personal. This is one trait of non-attachment. And another trait of non-attachment is, there is no desire to know one's own future. If any person has an instinct to know his future, that means he is not practicing vairagya. What will happen to me? What is my future? What will happen in future depends upon what you are doing now. That is the truth. Huh? What will be my future in the examination, whether I will succeed in the examination or not? That depends upon how you are working now. That's the very truth. That is the only truth. How you are making your study now properly or not, it depends upon this. The result of this depends upon this only. So, if you keep thinking of future, whether I will get a good result in the examination or not, There is no use if you keep thinking of that. Then you will be wasting the time which you have to use for your study. So therefore, no desire to know one's own future. You have to apply this. You have to test yourself. Whether you got vairagya or not, you need not ask somebody. Once what happened is, some elderly person, when master was very young, he was working in the college, just entered into a college as a professor. Then an elderly person who was a friend of his father, who was staying in the same town, master went to just visit him to pay his respects. Then this elderly person said, I am busy now, I have to go, I have to make a journey. So his master asked, Sir, where you have to go? Why you are in a hurry? He said, I have to go to another town. Then master asked, is it to visit some of your relatives or what? He said, no. One of my friends, he wrote to me, because in those days you don't have much of communication like mobiles and all these things, only by writing. He wrote to me that he feels that his Kundalini is rising up, the Kundalini is rising up, and it is about to reach his higher chakra, Sahasrara. So he wrote to me that, my dear friend, please come and observe me and confirm whether my Kundalini is really going up or not. So my friend wrote like this, therefore I want to go. Then master said, dear sir, if it is only for this reason, you need not go. You need not go and waste your money and time and energy in making this journey. Why, my dear boy? He asked this man. If his Kundalini is really rising, there is no need of other person to confirm it to him. It is common sense. When a person is practicing yoga and some elevation he is getting elevated, that is his own experience. How other person can confirm him? What is happening in him? Therefore, if he needs other person to confirm him, that means there nothing is happening. It is quite evident. So there is no desire to know others' opinions about himself. This is another trait. A person who got vairagya is never bothered to know what other persons are thinking about him. If you want to know, for example, if I want to know what Lizan is thinking about me, that means I am not at all practicing non-attachment. If I am practicing non-attachment or vairagya, I will never expect to know something about others, what they are thinking about me. What is the use? I am concerned about what I am thinking about the other person, where I have to rectify. If I have wrong impressions about the other person or something else, I have to rectify. But what the other person is thinking about me, that is most unpractical and ridiculous. If I know many persons, many of you I know, If I want to know what every person is thinking about me, is it not foolish? Because every person has his own work, his own task. Why you should expect that other person should think about you only? So you have to apply Vairagya, then you will realize that there is no need to know about what other person is thinking about you. So there is no desire to know others' opinion about himself. That is one of the traits of Vairagya. A person of Vairagya can be known by this trait. And another trait is there is no fear of desire or responsibility. No fear of desire or desire for responsibility. No fear or desire for responsibility. So if I have to take up a responsibility, when I am asked to take up a responsibility, if I am afraid to take up the responsibility, that means I have not practiced Vairagya. Or if I am very greedy, I say I will take up the responsibility, I can take up the responsibility. I myself present to other person, let me take up the responsibility. Then also I am not practicing Vairagya. For example, if all of you have not asked me to teach the subject of Patanjali, then if I am very inquisitive and enthusiastic and I write all of you, I want to teach you Patanjali, please, all of you gather, I want to teach you Patanjali, then it means it is not proper. I am not practicing Vairagya. If I am asked, I have to take up. Also, if all of you have asked me to teach this subject, and then if I am anxious whether I can teach or not, then also I am not practicing Vairagya. So therefore, there is no fear of taking the responsibility. There is no desire of taking the responsibility, both these things. There should be no fear of taking up any responsibility. And also there should be no desire for taking up a responsibility. It must be neutral. So this is very important trait of a person who is practicing Vairagya. And the last one of the traits is no fear or desire for death. This is the ultimate thing. No fear of death, no desire for death. Because he knows that death is quite natural phenomenon. So that means it is the only change of state, he knows. Therefore, he has no fear. Yes, let it be. Whenever it is destined, let it happen. No fear. And no desire also. Oh, I want to die. Why? You say, oh, I have so many problems. I cannot solve these problems. But who made these problems? You made the problems by yourself. So you have to solve the problems made by you. So you want to escape these problems, therefore you say, I want to die. So a desire to die is also not required. And a fear of death is also not to be there. So a person who has practiced vairagya in the real sense will have no fear of death, first of all, and also he will have no desire for death. He keeps on doing his duty, his work. When the time comes for him to leave the body, he will leave the body, that's all. Very natural. Just like changing the clothes, he will leave the body. It is so simple for such person, so natural. So these are the traits of the person who have practiced and who is applying vairagya in every aspect of his life. He can be identified by these traits which we have studied now. So you can identify whether you have these traits or not. You need not ask, I need not ask you that please confirm me whether I have got vairagya or not. Whether you got vairagya or not, I myself can verify whether I got these traits or not. It will make it clear that I am having vairagya or not, that's all. So therefore, we have to remember that yoga is suspension of the behavior of the mind, and the suspension can be possible by applying these two implements, abhyasa and vairagya. So, we will continue this in our next class, next week. Thank you all very much. Vasudeva.